Stephen Wolf is back on Twitter, and I couldn't be happier because he is posting some bangers here. And his latest issue is the billions of evils that you should be condemning. Anon, have you been condemning all billion of the evils that are currently happening in the world? And if not, why not? You need to be condemning all billion evils every day individually. What is the point? What does Stephen Wolf mean by this? Well, this tweet is a good example. Andrew T. Walker, who is this guy, he is a ethics and theology professor at the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, which is sad for me because I am a fan of the Southern Baptist Church, but this is the state of our seminary professors in the SBC. He says, no enemies to the right is a consequentialist principle at odds with biblical ethics. It excuses evil, invites partiality, and subjugates the truth to pragmatism. And then links to apparently an essay he has written in World Magazine about this. What is he talking about? He's talking about the political slogan, no enemies to the right, that has popped up recently, which is basically a meme form of Carl Schmitt's friend-enemy distinction, understanding of politics and the political from Carl Schmitt's work, The Concept of the Political. And what does that mean? It means you must, in politics, if you want to win, reward your friends and punish your enemies. That is politics. If you're going to win in politics, you need to reward friends and punish enemies. That's Carl Schmitt's thesis. It seems very, very simplistic, doesn't it? Well, it's an important concept that hopefully we can get down because we want to win. We want to win. And it helps with Christians and libertarians and other ideological purists to understand the political a little bit better this way. Because what it means is if you want to win politically, you can't just purity test everyone. And if they don't meet your test, then you are not friends with them. If that's your strategy, you will lose because there are too few people in the world who are going to meet the standards of your purity test. There are not enough pure ones left to make a coalition to be politically successful. No enemies to the right is a way of phrasing that, basically saying, don't go after your natural allies on the right-hand side of politics because we have enemies on the left-hand side. Don't make enemies of your natural friends because you have enough enemies on the left. The left are your true enemies. We need to win on the right, and then we can sort it out amongst ourselves. Intramural conflicts need to be handled in private and with a friendly, gentlemanly sort of discussion, rather than treating people on your side as enemies. Because if you do that, then you're going to end up with no friends. And if you have no friends, you're in trouble. You're not going to win anything politically. Donald Trump is a great example of this. Donald Trump has somehow united the right so that many, many people are willing to vote for him, even though they may not agree with him ethically, theologically, like the Andrew Walker specialties here. They're still going to vote for Trump because why? They want to win. Because it's better to have Trump, who you don't agree with on everything, than Kamala Harris, who is going to kill more innocent babies and let more invaders into our country and fire white people and hire only non-white people through diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? These things are existential threats to our life, liberty, and happiness. We cannot stand it. We cannot live with that. It's an existential threat. So in order to defeat that enemy, we cannot make enemies on the right. That's the idea. Andrew Walker here says it's a bad idea. Why? Because he says it's a consequentialist principle. What does that mean? It means it's not based on ethic. It's not based on what's right or wrong. It's based on simply the consequences that are going to come about if we follow this principle. The consequences in question here being we will win, right? It's all about trying to win, which is at odds with biblical ethics, doing what's right. you know? And in so doing, it excuses evil, invites partiality, and subjugates the truth to pragmatism, right? He's all about the truth, and he hates on pragmatism here, right? Well, a good example of people who agree with Andrew Walker here were the abortion abolitionists. The abortion abolitionists refused to vote for Donald Trump because he didn't meet their standards of truth and ethics, their purity test. Instead, they voted for third party. Some of them even voted for Kamala Harris with a sort of accelerationist theory there, strategy. That's really dumb. That's really dumb. Here in the argument, in excusing evil, they voted for evil. They voted for more evil. They wanted more evil because they didn't want to excuse evil. Do you see? They didn't want to be pragmatists. So in not wanting to be pragmatically, they allowed for more evil. In not wanting to be partial, they were partial towards evil. Do you see how wrong that is? It's maybe too pragmatic for some, too consequentialist for Andrew Walker. But it's true. It's true that under Donald Trump, less babies are being killed than there would have been under Kamala Harris. That is just a fact that you cannot argue with. It is true. So this has been argued to death in many places. You know, they used to call it the lesser of two evils. I cannot vote for the lesser of two evils. Well, yes, you can, because that's the only options you got. You got Donald Trump or Kamala Harris. And in your ethical system, they're both evil. So what are you going to do? You're going to vote for Donald Trump. It's very simple. It's not partial. It's just righteous. That's all you can do here. And I won't belabor the point because it's very obvious, but it still needs to be said because as of current day, 9 hours ago, Andrew Walker is still making this point about why no enemies to the right is wrong. But Stephen Wolfe avoids that entire conversation and says there are a billion evils every day. Everyone is selective in what they condemn, and most evils are left unmentioned. You select by some principle. The principle always involves some desired consequence, such as witness. So what is Stephen Wolfe talking about here? Well, first of all, this is the premise. This is the idea. There are a billion evils every day. Can we all agree that's true? It's very true. There are many billions of people doing many things every day, and many of them are evil. So there are many, many things wrong with the world. Now, Wolfe's next point is that everyone is selective in what they condemn, and most evils are left unmentioned. This is also just objectively, obviously true. You can only condemn so many evils. Even if you spent every breath for the entire day condemning everything you could think of, you will never get to every possible evil thing that has happened that day. There are too many evil things to even mention. So we have to be selective. We have to select the evil things. Let's say we are going to use our breath to condemn some evil thing today. We are going to select which evil thing we condemn. Stephen Wolfe says that you select that evil thing by some principle. You're going to use some logic, some rule to decide which evil thing you will condemn. And Wolfe says that principle always involves some desired consequence. You are usually, the consequence is you want to see less of that evil, right? You are condemning that evil because you want to see some consequence, usually the lessening of that evil that you have identified. You will always condemn evil because of wanting some consequence from your words. Otherwise, you're just speaking nonsense words without ever trying to do anything. One such principle that Stephen Wolfe mentions here is witness, in scare quotes. What is witness? Well, that is the always present, ever present, omnipresent evangelical principle of trying to look good in the world. That's what they call witness. We have to be a good witness to the watching world. What does that mean? It means not looking bad to the unbeliever. Why? Because we want to be a good witness so that they see the light of Christ in us and they come to the gospel. That's the idea, right? But obviously there is a risk in that principle, which is that you could become afraid of the world. You can become motivated by fear of man. You can become afraid to be politically incorrect or immoral by the world standards, not by God's standards, but by the world standards, because that might harm your witness. That's the idea of this Wolf tweet. And I love this. I just think it's so good because why is Andrew Walker, a Southern Baptist seminary professor, spending time worried about how the right is unified? That's the question that Stephen Wolf is implicitly asking. Why the heck is a Southern Baptist conservative Christian professor using his platform, writing articles in World Magazine, trying to influence right-wingers to be less willing to unite with other right-wingers? That's the question. Why are the perceived evils in this no enemies to the right type of political strategy worth the breath and the ink of Andrew Walker? When you ask it like that, with a billion other evils that he could be condemning, it becomes a potent question, doesn't it? Why is this the evil that you're targeting? Because by doing so, you are sowing discord amongst our political coalition. You are sowing disunity and division among those who are trying to work towards bringing more righteousness in politics. If that's what you're doing, and you are thereby helping the enemy of goodness and righteousness in our world, then you need to stop doing it. You need to stop wasting your breath and your words on politics. Get out of politics. Go back to theoretical biblical ethics. If that's your cup of tea, spend all of your time there. Perhaps you can do good work there. Perhaps you will not be accidentally helping evil to spread in our country. But if you are going to get into politics, please do not waste your breath calling out the evil that you see in the right that is actually part of our strategy for winning and bringing about more true godly law and order in our country. Because by doing that, you are actually working with the enemy. I don't care if you have some ethical or theological rationale for what you're doing. You're pragmatically, consequentially helping the enemies of Christ. Please don't do that, Andrew Walker.